Okay, so let's go ahead and start off with some basic string searching. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file, and let's go ahead and save this, and we're going to call this string library demo.lua. And what we're going to do is I'm going to copy some text, some HTML, a bunch of HTML that we're going to try to use some string manipulation on. So let me just paste this inside here. And you can see this is just a bunch of HTML stored in a variable called text. And we're going to try and find some things in this HTML. We're just going to keep things pretty simple here. But one interesting thing about the ability of Lua to return multiple values from functions is that it makes it really easy to find something inside of a string and then do a substring. I don't know about you, but I always get messed up on substrings in just about every programming language. I can't remember which index or how to do it and get the length, and I forget the parameters. I get really confused. I have to always look back at the documentation. But in Lua, it's actually pretty easy, so I found this pretty refreshing. Let's say that we want to find a div. All we have to do is we can basically do something like this. B and E, that's going to be begin and end. So I'm declaring two variables here that we're going to store this information in. We're going to have the beginning of the text we're looking for and the end of it. So the beginning index and ending index. And we're going to set this equal to, and we're going to do text : find. Now, before we move on, there are two ways that you can actually call some of these string functions in your code. The first way I'm going to show you is just using this colon operator. Remember, we had seen this colon operator in the previous module when we were doing object-oriented programming in Lua. And this operator is going to allow us to basically just call any of these string library functions off of a string and pass in that string as the first parameter. We could also call this just by doing string dot find and then passing in our text string. But by doing the :find way, we're making it a little bit simpler. We don't have to pass in a first parameter to find because it's automatically being passed in. That's what that colon is doing for us. I'll show you an example of using just the raw string as well, just so you can see the difference. So we're going to say text find, and we're going to, let's just look for a div. We'll just do a simple search here. So what's going to happen now is it'll find the first instance of a div, and it's going to set the beginning and the ending index for us. And now what we could do is, first of all, we could just print this. Let's just print and see what we get here, our B and E. So you can see we get 2 and 4. But this comes in really handy for doing a substring. So now we can actually do, and we'll do this the string way. We're going to do string.sub, and we're going to pass in our text and then the beginning and ending. That's what substring takes. So now we can get our substring real easily. If we run this, you can see we get back our div. Not hugely useful in the case of this where we're not using any kind of pattern matching. But if we use some pattern matching, which I'll show you in a little bit here, then this would of course be extremely useful to be able to substring something very easily like that. So for example, let's go ahead and change this div to basically match anything that's going to be in angle brackets, whatever tag. And the way we could do this is we could use a dot and then a minus and then another angle bracket. So this minus says match it so there's 0 or more occurrences, but do it with the shortest possible sequence. So if we were to run this now, you can see we get this div ID, and we're basically getting the first div that's up here in our HTML.